As they were enjoying themselves, there was a pounding on the door, and the house was surrounded by perverted men. They told the old man, "Bring out the man who came to your house, so we may have our way with him." But the old man said, "No, my brethren, I beg of you, do not act so wickedly. Seeing this man has come into my house, do not commit this outrage. Look, here is my virgin daughter and the man's concubine." Why did the Levite man leave his home to go after his concubine? Why did they stay the night in such a violent city? And did a man throwing his wife to wicked men of the city start a war? Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth, and I'm here to bring you another Bible story of how crime, wars and sin all started. There was anarchy in Israel. There was no king, and the people were not following the laws of God. In the remote mountains of Ephraim lived a Levite man. One day he had come down from the mountain and went to Bethlehem to take a concubine for his wife. It was not uncommon in those days to have concubines. They held a secondary status in the home and in society. Also, please be advised that today's story is that of a somewhat graphic nature. But soon after their marriage, she had an affair and moved back to her father's house to live. So one morning, the Levite man, after 4 months had gone by, decided it was time to go and bring his wife back to his home in the mountains. He and his servant in the light of that morning loaded up his donkeys and travelled down to Bethlehem. When he arrived at the home of his father-in-law, the father was happy to see him. So the father-in-law asked the man to stay and eat, drink and be merry. And the Levite man agreed, and he stayed. They did this every day for 3 days. The father-in-law would say stay and the Levite man would stay, until the 4th day, when the Levite said he could no longer be there. So the father-in-law talked him into at least staying until the afternoon. When finally it came time to leave, the Levite man, his concubine and his servant all travelled with his 2 saddled donkeys until evening fell, and they were tired. Seeing a city in the near distant, the servant said, "Let us go over here to the city of Jebusites and lodge in it." But the master said, "No, we will not go into the city of foreigners who are not of the children of Israel. We will go on to Gibeah and look for lodging there." The night had fallen when they reached Gibeah. They walked over and sat in the square, waiting for someone to offer them lodging, but no one would make the offer, until finally an old man, who also was from the mountain of Ephraim, was coming in from his work, saw them. He asked them, "Where are you going, and where are you coming from?" The Levite man said to him, "We are coming from Bethlehem on our way to the remote mountains of Ephraim, where I live. No one here will take us in for the night. We have straw and food for our donkeys, as well as food and wine for ourselves. We lack nothing." So the old man invited them to come stay at his house, but insisted he would take care of their needs. When they got to his place, he fed the donkeys and let the travellers wash their feet, and then they ate supper. As they were enjoying themselves, there was a pounding on the door, and the house was surrounded by perverted men. They told the old man, "Bring out the man who came to your house, so we may have our way with him." But the old man said, "No, my brethren, I beg of you, do not act so wickedly. Seeing this man has come into my house, do not commit this outrage. Look, here is my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out now. Humble them and do what you please with them, but to this man do not do such a vile thing." But the men did not care about the women. So the Levite man took his concubine and threw her out to them, and they ravaged her and abused her all night. When the rays of the morning light starting to shine down, the men finally let her go. Then the woman made her way to the foot of the door of the old man's house and collapsed. When her husband opened his eyes to meet the new day, he arose and got himself ready to leave for his home. And when he opened the door to leave, there he saw his concubine wife laying there on the ground, with her hands touching the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let us be going." But there was no answer. She had died at the hands of the lawless and perverted men. I know, it makes me mad too. As well as sad for the girl. In my opinion, he should have just left her at her dad's house. What's your opinion? So the Levite man picked her up and laid her over a donkey and took her home. When he arrived at his house, he went inside, laid his concubine on a table, and took his knife and cut her body into 12 pieces, limb by limb. He sent her body parts throughout the territory of Israel. This was to mobilize the tribes of Israel to discuss the perverted thing that happened, and to gather the leaders of the tribes together to figure out what to do with the perverted and wicked men and the Benjamites that supported them. Quick side note: Benjamites are people of the territory and the tribe Benjamin, and the city of Gibeah is in the Benjamin territory. You see, God's chosen man to be the father of many nations was Abraham, and the grandson of Abraham was Jacob, who God later changed his name to Israel. God had given land to Israel, and it was later divided amongst each of the 12 sons of Israel, and each son had his own land and tribe named after him. Anyways, at the hearing, the leaders of Israel said, "Tell us, how did this wicked deed happen?" So, the husband of the concubine who was murdered said, "I went to Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, to stay the night. And the men of Gibeah rose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me, but instead they ravished my concubine so that she died. So I took hold of my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent her throughout all the territory of the inheritance of Israel, because they committed lewdness and outrage in Israel." And then he says, "Look, all of you are children of Israel. Give your advice and counsel here and now." So all the people together decided what to do. The leaders then said, "None of us will go to his tent, nor will any turn back to his house." They all gathered in unity and said they would repay the vileness of what the wicked men had done to Israel. The leaders of the tribes sent up men throughout Benjamin, looking to find the men that had done such a despicable thing. The men of Israel said to the people of the city, "What is this wickedness that has occurred among you? Now give us the men, the perverted men who are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and remove evil from Israel." But the people of the tribe of Benjamin would not listen. Instead, they all gathered together from their cities to Gibeah to go to battle against the tribes of Israel. There was 26,000 men of the tribe of Benjamin who drew their swords to stand beside the 700 men of Gibeah. And among all those men were 700 who were left-handed, and everyone could sling a stone and shoot an arrow very long range and not miss. But then men of the other 11 tribes of Israel numbered 400,000, and all the soldiers were superbly skilled in the art of war. So the men of Israel went up to the house of God and inquired of God which tribe should go up first in battle against Benjamin. And the Lord told them, "Judah first." And at the first light of next morning, the soldiers went to battle against the tribe of Benjamin. But to their dismay, 22,000 of the Israelite soldiers were killed by the Benjamites. So the soldiers of Israel regrouped and went back to the battle lines they had started from the day before and held their line. Then the leaders of Israel went up to house thee of God and wept all day before the Lord and asked him if they should fight again. And the Lord said, "Yes, go up against them." So they went to battle on that day, and again they lost the battle, this time losing 18,000 men. So the leaders went back up to the house of God. They wept and fasted all day, and made burnt and peace offerings to the Lord. As the sun was going down, they asked the Lord again, "Should we go to battle again against our brother, the Benjamites, or should we cease?" And God answered them and said, "Go up against them tomorrow, and I will deliver them into your hand." So, for the third time they went to battle. This time, however, they set an ambush for the Benjamites. They attacked, disoriented, and drew them out of the city of Gibeah, and continued their attack on them until they killed 25,100 Benjamites. Then they set fire to all the cities. The 600 Benjamites that were left had fled to hide in the wilderness, and they stayed there for 4 months. After some time went by, feeling remorse for their brother, the Israelites made peace with the 600 Benjamites that were left and offered them wives to help them rebuild their population. As for the Levite man, who was at the root of the Benjamite war, nothing more is said about him. We can assume after he brought this matter to the attention of the Israel leaders that he simply went home. This war needed to happen, however, to bring all of Israel back into the service of the Lord. When Israel was lawless and without God, They were oppressed, enslaved, impoverished, and plundered by their enemies. But when they turned their hearts back to God and depended on Him, they were delivered, blessed, restored, had freedom and victories. So there it is, the journey of the nameless Levite man and his unknown concubine. Let me know what you think of this story in the comments below, and if there is any other Bible story you are interested in knowing about. Also, if you enjoyed this content, then please hit that like and subscribe button and enable that bell notification so you can always be sure to follow me for a lot more crime-filled stories from the Bible. See you in the next sinful story. Thanks for watching.